You're back in the UK, fresh from holiday, and I'm in France.
Loving the background today.
My brother childhood bedroom, which it's a good segue from the weed story from the last episode, isn't it? The Deliveroo weed story. Now I've got a
That's-
massive Jamaican Bob Marley flag in the background, and that all makes sense.
Love it. A nice open window. I would definitely wouldn't want to open a window today here in the UK.
Yeah, no, it's 30 in the shade. It's 32 degrees where I am in south of France.
Wow.
So in the sun, it's cooking. And if you know the tone of my skin, I'm not going in the sun.
Yes, no, it's fair enough.
So the context is you came back from holiday, and I'm in south of France in my childhood home, like in my family home, for 5 weeks. So I'm working from there. So it's kind of a break, but I'm working. And I tried to set up the recording in a garden by the pool, but the Wi-Fi doesn't go that far. So I back in the bedroom, and I'm in my younger brother bedroom. And like on a funny, like just a funny thing, there's a lot of like teenage years things left in our bedroom, both of our bedrooms. So for example, I've got like a Kobe Bryant poster on the wall, member mentality. And in his bedroom, there is obviously there's the flag behind me, but there's a lot of our PlayStation games. And I was just
Very
looking
nice.
at them because it's like memory, nostalgic memory. And we've got like Street Hoops. I've got Street Volume Basketball Volume 2 as well, of like basketball street games.
That's cool. That was never my bag at all. I remember when me, you, and Simon played I don't know, NBA 2K19 or something, and you guys
Yeah,
it just wasn't fun. You play a game and you're just like mashing the buttons, and the other two people actually know what they're doing.
I know the basketball games are quite tricky when you don't know the sport too much. There's a lot of intricacies. But the ones that I just showed you, they're like the fun ones. They're the ones where you jump in the sky to dunk, like you
Yeah,
can jump.
okay.
Like that was me when I was younger. That was my ideal of basketball.
Well, so you almost made it, right? So you did your footing.
Almost made it. Yeah, almost made it. For those who don't know, I played semi-professional level in France when I was 16, 17, 18. Like the league below the top league. So yeah, pretty high up. But then I fucked my knee up, and then
And you went and got a job at Ford.
yeah, and then I was like, I'm going to study. So I'm going to study instead. It feels more long term plan than the sport. But
Oh, that's good.
yeah,
That's a sensible option.
that's it.
Well, a big thing this week is obviously Twitter rebranding, I think Elon says it's not just a rebrand, right? It's the whole new vision, new ecosystem to
Yeah.
X Corp, or Twitter is X, but underneath X Corp. What do you think about that?
X. It reminds me of Exhibit, the rapper.
Yeah.
That song X.
X can't give it to
He
you.
was doing like this. Yeah. I saw something that was quite interesting. Like people were saying, it's the same thing that Facebook did with Meta, the same thing that Google did with Alphabet. But so far, it's not really the same thing. It's not a parent company and keeping the name of the subsidiary company or whatever. It's Twitter is becoming X. Like Twitter doesn't exist anymore as a name. It's not like there is a overarching X company on top, at least for now. That's not really the way. I think that's the way they explain it, but I don't think that's the way it is yet. It's just they rebranded Twitter to X. And I don't know what I think of it. I don't really care. I think people talk a lot about that stuff like for the first few weeks, and then people just move on, and it doesn't really affect me or bother me that much.
No, it kind of came out of the blue for me, at least. I've started getting more active on Twitter, as you've probably seen, but it was
the Twitter blue.
I thought, yeah, how the Twitter blue, yeah. I do like the Twitter bird logo, but whatever.
Yeah, me too.
I think that his kind of like vision of it becoming like a finance, like an everything app, but he's spoken quite a lot about it being like a big finance component to it. He's obviously like into crypto and all the Dogecoin shit. So I'm sure there'll probably just be like some kind of Web3 wallet built into it somehow. But I don't know. I guess it'd be quite cool if you managed to pull it off. We don't really have an everything app in the West, so not that I know of anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
Interesting to see how that does.
That was the plan with Jack Dorsey already, with Square, and building other kind of more payment business around Twitter. And I think they're still trying to make it happen with that move. It'll be very interesting to see if they pull it off. Like you said, we don't really have that in the Western countries, like they do with what they call
WeChat,
Weibo, like those kind of more Chinese, I think it's Chinese apps.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
The big thing now is you've got to refer to it in decks and meetings, and when you're talking about Twitter, you have to remember to refer to it as X. And for a long time, people are going to be like, what the fuck is X?
To be honest, it's like Meta. When I talk about Facebook ads, I just say Facebook. It's really hard. It's not. I know we just said it's not the same thing as the parent company, etc. But at the end of the day, on the day-to-day, when you on Meta, it says Meta on the in the corner of the site.
It's like when you do a media plan and you put Facebook in it, people are like, "What about Instagram?" And you're like, oh, "Fucking hell, okay."
Yeah.
I mean, the whole channel, the whole platform.
Exactly. You always mean that. It's an interesting move as well, because in the meantime, Threads is apparently dying. There's some stats coming out saying that the amount of active users has reduced by half or something. Like, we know it's a more like long-term play, and they'll release some upgrades and new features, etc. But as we know, it's pretty hard to get people's attention. It's really rare when a new app actually does it.
Yeah, I mean, they had a crazy growth hack. Not even a growth hack, just like you effectively just migrate everyone off one of your existing platforms onto another one. It's not really surprising, right? The 50% of people have left. It's just, it's obviously was rushed out because of all the Twitter stuff that's going on. And it's so limited to what you can do. I mean, we were kind of on it a lot a couple of weeks ago. In fact, I actually said maybe by the next podcast it'll be dead, and technically, maybe it is. But there's just they need to update it. No, they need to get more features, and it doesn't have a single USP.
Exactly, and people who are using Twitter, they're not really moving away from Twitter. Even if there is a lot of chatters and things, like Twitter is still very active. In fact, it's even more active in my world, because I've started using it a few months ago. So I'm really active on Twitter, and I think it's like doing great. They're doing a lot on like creators' payments and getting paid not only getting paid by per views. So how many views you get on your account, you'll get like a share of the ads that are running on your content. So things like that. Like I think they pulling some strange move with the brand rebranding, but also some interesting move on like the creator side, and so it's a very interesting fight.
I think it needs to get a better ad product though, because if you're going to be sharing ad revenue with your creators, like it's already not particularly great in terms of the revenue that they're making through advertisers.
Yeah.
So I think their ad products have always been a bit shit. Even back in the day, the app cards and all that stuff, it just didn't really seem to work. I'm sure there's something interesting that you can do. Maybe they've got something in the pipeline, but it'll be interesting if they got a team in there that was like, what do ads look like on Twitter, and how do ads work on Twitter that are different somehow? I think that could be interesting.
In both of our careers, we never spoke to anyone, I think, who said their best channel was Twitter.
No.
In terms of like acquisition.
Funny thing about Twitter, it seems like the hardest piece of engagement to get on it is a follower. That you can get likes, comments, retweets.
Yeah.
It takes a lot for someone to go through to your profile and follow you.
Yeah, it's tough. Even on big accounts of people I really admire, like George Mack, which we featured on the newsletter, I think at least once, who's got like amazing content, amazing threads, a lot of these threads are getting 3, 4, 5, sometimes more million impressions. And his account is growing, but it's not growing as much as I thought it would be growing because of the amount of impressions it's getting. So, like you said, really easy to get. Not really easy. You can get a lot of engagement. Doesn't necessarily translate in all of these people are going to follow you right off the back. I think I heard the stats was like 2% conversion rate on like profile to followers. Conversion rate is a good one on Twitter.
Interesting.
So it's pretty low.
And on TikTok, like I've been, well, not super consistent, but I had a spell that about a couple of weeks ago of putting out every day or other day what I felt like was decent knowledge content, not necessarily decent content. It was still like shitpost content of using whatever was the latest like the trending filter of me talking about if it's 10 tips to do your Facebook ads with like acid rain or whatever it was. And they always do like okay, like 300-400 views, but then like I told you, I was sitting outside the villa on a holiday the other day, and one of the babies was playing with my phone, and I put like a cat filter, it's like turns your head into a cat, and she was meowing. And the next thing I looked, and she was uploading it, and I could see it was uploading. We didn't have any Wi-Fi, so it was just on like 3G. It was taking ages to upload. But I was just like sitting there, not paying any attention, with like my man boobs out, it's like topless, just sitting there. I was thinking, I'd kind of want to cancel this thing before it goes up and anyone sees it, but I couldn't, because once it's uploading, I couldn't find a way to actually get rid of it. So I just like forgot about it for half an hour, and then I went back and looked. It was my highest viewed video so far on the account. I think I got one that's about 1,100 views. I think that one got to like 800 within the 5 minutes of it going up. So it's there's no point trying to do that. I didn't actually. I left it. I just thought it wasn't actually as terrible as I thought it was.
How are we doing with the guest? Is the guest arrived yet or not yet?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, let me just check.
Hello.
Hey.
How you doing?
Hello, Ash. We were talking about various things for like 10-15 minutes, and then I was like, oh, he must be late, like he must be but something must have happened or something. And then I was like, wait a minute, I didn't send him the link. It doesn't have the fucking link. So it's my mistake. On the record. I was just on the my bad link. For the first time. I copied
the Google Meet,
the Google Meet, which we don't use. So I was like, oh no, I'm such a rookie. So
no, good.
But welcome. Thank you for joining the podcast with us.
Pleasure, man.
The one thing I was thinking about as an intro, which I think is interesting, is that on Jake and I's side, and on like the marketing side of things, marketing teams often talk about creators and influencers as a channel. It's a channel to grow, right? It's like numbers and, like, oh, what's the tactic? How are we going to get, to get to the customer numbers that we want? And it is very dry, it's very process driven, very dry, very like, like you turning on Facebook ads or whatever, Yeah. And I thought it was really interesting to bring someone like you for this episode, because you're human, you're people. You're like you guys are doing like what you're doing is amazing. Like you're being a creator and influencer, you're building an audience that is like huge, and we can talk about that in a second. And it's almost never talked about in like the marketing world, or brought to the front. So we've got a few questions, but also like we're just super keen to like hear from you and what you do and stuff, because I think it'll be very useful to a lot of marketing growth people listening to the podcast today.
Sweet. Sounds good, man. Sounds exciting.
Let's start with a quick intro. We know we don't spend too long on like your people's background story and try and make it quick, but just to like introduce yourself to the people listening or watching, who you are and kind of like what you do. Like, how did you come about doing
sure.
what you do?
So my name's Ash, and I'm 23 years old now, and just literally graduated from uni last year and did computer science. But now I'm in a completely different field. I actually started TikTok and Instagram, the whole content creation side, while I was at uni, and been able to grow that to over 450K across both platforms now, and worked with amazing people, met some amazing people, and yeah, now I'm just kind of exploring that and trying to help people in as many ways as I can.
That's cool, man. When you started on that journey of putting content out there, was it like the end goal? Was it this, or was it just fun at first?
No, it wasn't this at all. I did not want to become a content creator or anything like that. It was more just a hobby at the time, and it was just kind of like oh, let's see how this goes sort of thing. It was never like the intention. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get better at being in front of the camera. I'll learn some valuable skills along the way, and also because it was in the personal finance niche, I wasn't an expert in finance, right? But I just wanted to come from a point of, okay, whatever I learn along the way, I'm going to share that with my audience as well.
That's cool. And so you just chose personal finance kind of random, or did you just kind of spot a gap in the market there?
So initially, I actually did like business, entrepreneurship, sort of like Facebook ads I was trying to do as well at one point, and personal finance. And then just based on how I was doing it, what I was like most active in at that time, it was personal finance, and the audience engaged well with that stuff as well. So it was just like, okay, all of the finance stuff you only see in the US, like Graham Stephan, Nate O'Brien, Brian Jung, like, all the finance creators. So I was like, okay, like, it'd be great to have someone in the UK who's like that. So yeah, that was sort of the perspective as well.
What was the journey into getting to almost 500,000 followers now across both Instagram and TikTok? Like, when did you started to see, oh, this is working, maybe I need to do more of it? Like, what was the like the click maybe in the first few steps where you were like, oh, this is working and I need to like focus more on that?
Yeah, so I think initially when I started, so I posted one in like 2020 October, right? And then that's when I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get started. And then I didn't post for like another month, and then I made a second post, and then I was like, okay, I need to take this seriously. Let me commit to myself, like let me make a promise to myself that I can stay consistent with something, like wherever it is. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna post 3 times a day, no matter what, for as long as possible. And so once I started doing that, I think like 10 videos in, or like a couple videos in, I did like a Shopify hack sort of thing. It's like how to get rid of the powered by Shopify thing, right? And that kind of like took off, and I was like, oh crap, like, it got like maybe a couple thousand views in the first like couple of hours, and I was like, damn, like, that is a lot, right? And then I was like, okay, cool, let's keep this going. And then like a couple videos after that, I got like 50K views on another one. So it just kind of like, it was like just jogging me on the whole time. And then I think after that video, I got my first like viral video, which was like 3.2 mil, and I was like, damn, like this stuff works. I was like, I'm listening to Gary Vee finally like actually doing what he's saying, and it's working. So yeah, literally, I was thinking from there, it was just like, okay, cool. I'm staying committed to this, and I'm getting results, so I'm gonna carry on. And it just started growing from there, really, on TikTok.
So cool.
That's crazy.
And Jake, you're listening to that? That's how you need to do it.
I was just saying to you that when I was on holiday a couple of days ago, my daughter was playing with my phone, and she put a TikTok up on my account of me just like sitting there topless, looking awful, with like a cat filter emoji on her face, filter on her face. And I mean, it didn't go viral by any means, but it was like my fastest growing video it was like 800 views after like 10 minutes. And I was like, oh shit. I wanted to delete it, but I was thinking, just leave it. Maybe it's going to go crazy. It like capped out at like 850 or something, but it just goes to show you can't really plan for what's going to work, right?
Man.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
Yeah.
At what point when that happens, right, the brands start getting in touch? How quickly does that happen?
Like from what I remember, I feel like it was like maybe 60K mark, between 30 to 60K mark, and then much more after like the 80 to 100K mark. So yeah, it was like a few of the smaller brands at 60K, and then some larger brands once I got to like the 80, 100K mark. And yeah, it just started like flowing in. And I was also growing really fast as well. So I think I got to like 300, over 300 in like less than 6 months.
Wow. Yeah, how did the viral videos translate into followers? Like, is it pretty linear, or is there just a few videos you can see are really pushing the followers, or maybe were you doing like some other tactics to grow the followers at the same time? Because I know that it's not, one doesn't really equal the other on TikTok. Like, it's not because you've got a big following that you'll get a lot of views and vice versa. Like, how do you see that?
Yeah, so I think I agree with what you said. You know, like just because you get like millions of views doesn't mean you're going to get tons of followers. But the thing with my content was, because I always like had a call to action at the end, I think that helped a lot. So whenever I had like a viral video, right, and I had a call to action at the end, I would get like tens of thousands of followers from that one video. And my other videos would also get me followers, but that would be more like slower and consistent. But then once I got a like a viral video, that would give me like 30, 40,000 followers sometimes. So it was crazy, like, to see the growth, and you know, it's just like nonstop, especially when it was like really snowballing into a huge video. So I think it helps if you have a call to action at the end a lot.
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, people love being told what to do, don't they? It's crazy. It's the same with when you're running ads. You just literally hold people by the hand and tell them what to do. And that call to action is what, just like follow for more content like this.
I think for me it was like, you know, follow to learn more, or like, you know, just follow if you found it valuable, things like that.
Let's move into like the relationship with brands, because that's how you started, right? Like, I know now you're doing maybe something slightly different, or a mix of both, with you know, helping people doing what you do as well. Maybe we can talk about that in a second. But how did you get started with brands reaching out, and how did you work with them in terms of you know, even like finding your price, you know, like as a 20, were you 20-year-old at that time, and still studying? Like, how do you do that? You know?
No, it was crazy, because I didn't do any outbound at all to begin with. So I was just getting like at least like 2 to 3 inbound a month. And like when I first initially, because like I said at the start, right, I didn't set out to be a content creator, so I never looked at these things of, okay, how do I price myself, like what do I charge? And being in the finance niche, I know brands will usually pay a high CPM, right? And I think so at the time, let's say I had 100K followers, I was like, okay, cool, 100K, like £100 seems fair. And what's it called, I think one of the brands came to me, and like they were pretty rebranded, and I was like, yeah, like £100 for like their videos, right? And they're like, yeah, sweet. And then like we just went with that, and then I did that for a bit, like, you know, charging like a couple hundred while I was like 100, 150K, 200. And then like I started getting into a network with like creators, right? And I was just speaking to them, and they were like, what are you doing, bro? Like, they're like, you're ruining it. And so they were like, no, you should be charging at least this much. You know, like, this is how much I charge. Like, you know, they'll be like, for like 100K, for example, this is how they were thinking of it. Like, this is like super basic. 100K is like 1K per 100K. And
100K,
like, and even that, I was like, what? Like, that seems like way too much. So when I was like at 300K, I still charged like 1.5 for like a while, just because, you know, I wanted to like feel like I was providing value as well. And then just like getting roasted by other creators, basically, that helped me get my price up. But I still didn't really go into detail. Like, I know a lot of the creators in the community I'm part of, like, you know, they will go into whitelisting, they'll go into kind of the usage rights and all of that stuff, and really break it down. But yeah, for me, it was just like, listen, everything's included. Like, here you go. So I've never really had a playbook to navigate the space, really.
That's so interesting, though. But that's like through the network of other creators, and I know there's a lot of group on like WhatsApp and like
Discord,
Discord, etc. yeah, that's how you benchmark yourself basically. And that's where we, so for the context, that's where we got in touch. I can't remember when it was, a few months ago. Definitely less than a year ago, that we got to talk, because obviously I work on my day-to-day in the finance fintech app space, and I was interested in working with creators, but on a more consistent basis. And I think that's one of the things that we talked about. And I was keen to ask you if you ever considered, I kind of want to hear you say the thought process behind sticking with one-off videos versus maybe being more a prominent figure in another brand's account. What I was looking for, I remember at the time, it was like someone to do a video every day, every month, like forever, like literally take over the account and just do videos. Obviously, when you think about the math that you just described, it's going to be very expensive to do that if you want to do it that way. But I was just curious to, like, it could be a very simple answer because of, like, from a money point of view, it doesn't make sense. But what do you think of that? Like, working a bit more intensely with one account, doing more videos as opposed to just one-offs.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely something I learned along the way as well. I think a lot of creators, it can be a really transient space, especially, if you have a big following and you have a bunch of brands reaching out to you, you're not like, trying to really think about, like the long-term side of things. But I think as I got more time in the space, as I understood the space a bit more, it was like, okay, like I don't really like these one-off deals, like even like just like personally, right? It was like I'd rather create a longer-term partnership with a brand because it's also beneficial for creators to have that longer-term partnership, and it gives the brand more like like that trust and relationship with the creator. It's like they're not just trying to take your money. Like it's like, okay, cool, like they actually want to help you out, and they would be someone who resonates with the audience. So I think for me, it was after a while, once I understood that, I was like, okay, cool, like this makes so much more sense. And I think like after speaking to you and a couple of other guys as well at fintech companies, that was a lot of the common kind of, I guess, want from a marketing point of view. And it just made more sense, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So you went from one-off videos to maybe like more bundles of or set of series of videos with brand. What's the longest tenure you had with a brand in terms of content creation? Does it go really? Do you still do some at the moment, or was there like an average period of time that this goes on for?
Yeah, sometimes it would be like for like 3 months. Sometimes the brands maybe would want content for the 3 months, but then I would all do it in that first month, if that makes sense. So if they wanted like for like 6 months, I'll record all the videos and give that to them up front. So I kind of depended on the brand, but I would say most of them were one-time things, especially at the start, and then it just kind of transitioned a bit later on.
On that point, Ash, because I know a lot of people and a lot of brands or marketers, they want to start putting out more content, not necessarily to be a content creator, but like as a brand, you want to come out with more ads or more content. What is your process for, like, when are you still putting out 3 videos a day?
No, not 3 at the moment. No.
Okay, cool. So I bet I was going to say, so when you sit down with a brand and they say, we want like 3 videos, and you said just now, sometimes you just do those all in the first month to kind of get them out of the way. What is your process that you go through to ideate on something and then work out what it's going to look like, how you're going to film it and all that kind of stuff? Or does it come quite naturally to you, or do you have a kind of planning process for that?
Okay, so I'll start off when I'm personally doing it. So initially when I started as well, it was from a perspective of, okay, what knowledge do I have about this space that would be helpful to other people? And because when you're so indulged in the space, you think everything is normal to you, but then when you explain it to someone else, they're like, oh, what, really? Like, I didn't know that, right? So it was like, okay, cool, let me break that down and kind of look at what I'm going to be consuming more of and how I can kind of curate that into something that can be like sound bites and basically easy to understand for people to kind of put out. So that would kind of be like a research process of, okay, cool, this and this would be helpful if people knew, and then really just kind of scripting it around that in a framework where I know would be well structured and work well to actually, you know, grab the audience's attention and, you know, give them a bunch of value raised basically. And similarly with the brand as well, when a brand comes back to me or they'll approach me, they obviously have their brief, right? They'll have the main key talking points, and I really try and take it in that same approach of, okay, cool, like, you know, because you want to keep it on content style as well, because if you go too away from your content style, people are going to know it's an ad or like it's a promo, right? So you want to keep that as native as possible. So that's what I really try and do. I'm like, okay, cool, I want to do it on brand, but also integrate the brand that's come in and provide value in the same way, and not just be like addy or like, you know, like salesy.
That's cool. And have you had much pushback from your followers on when you started doing ads, or had you started doing more of them and people get put off because it's not, you know what I mean? Like if we started doing ads on the podcast, people might be like, oh, fuck this, I'm not listening. They're just like selling out now. Did you have any pushback like that, or did you worry about that when you got started?
I think I always knew from the start that I wouldn't kind of saturate my content with ads. If I were to do ads, I would only take maybe one slot per week. And because I was doing so many videos at that point, that would be enough space. So I'd always make sure, you know, okay, I'm only going to take this many slots, and make sure that the companies that I work with are actually legit, first of all. Make sure they can actually be useful to my audience and kind of are in line with what I kind of put out.
Yeah, it's cool, man. The whole due deal part is it's nice to hear that, because there's been like so many studies where you got these influencers like ex Love Island people, and it's like we want you to talk about this product and these are the ingredients like arsenic, and they're like, oh, I thought that's poisonous, but yeah, whatever, I'll do it. It's nice to hear that you actually do some due deal first before you just put someone on the feed.
That's true. That's good to hear. Do you have any like or stories working with brands where you were like, you know, fuck this, you know, why are they asking me this?
I've had like a brand just give me a script and be like, yeah, this is what we want. I'm like, bro, this is not going to work, but okay, like, you know, like this is what you want. So I always suggest like improvements or tweaks, but I think main thing has been like revisions. Like if I had to do like a ton of revisions, and then late payment, basically, those are the two main annoying things.
Payment on time, that's a big one. And every time we did some work with creators, I was almost always too loose on the other side, where I was just like, don't even give them like nothing. Just let them do anything, anything they want. You know, they know what they're doing. You know, like what do I was like, what do I know? I don't, you know. So, but I think the kind of middle ground is like some bullet points about your brands, your USPs, what makes you unique, because the creator might not know that. And you know, that's kind of it. You know. You know, and then let them do the bits around it, you know, the edits, the way they want to integrate it with their own like lifestyle and their background, their context. You know, like what does it make sense for them, if at all? And that's where your due diligence comes into play as well. Like, would you accept working with anyone if you can't really make a link with who you are and what you talk about on a daily basis? It's really hard. But outside of that, it's like, it's pretty loose. It's like, you know, just they know what they're doing. Like, you know what you're doing. Don't control it.
From a brand perspective, I feel like there's probably two ways they approach it. It's like they're the ones that come to you because they're just seeing you as like 300,000 people that they want to get in front of. And there's the other ones that are seeing like your content is, they just want their brand to be like mentioned in the style that you're doing to your audience. And I feel like, do you see it kind of clear cut like that? Is there a difference between those brands, and I'm guessing you prefer working with the ones that give you more of that creative freedom?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's definitely brands that, like you said, you know, care about just getting in front of those 300,000 followers, and then versus the brands that want to get the bit more in-depth analytics, sorry, about, you know, how's the engagement and everything, and kind of wanting to foster that over a longer term relationship. And it does help when a brand comes in and they're like, okay, cool, but these are the key talking points, right, that we think you should know, just to give you some more context about the brand. And we really want you to kind of take this in your own creative direction, so that it fits well with your audience and it's natural.
So you mentioned about the brands that are kind of on that analytical side, and like in my experience, when like working internally, really not necessarily agency side, but working internally, and you mentioned potentially using like an influencer or a content creator, and there's a lot of people maybe more from the traditional marketing world that kind of might push back and be like, well, how trackable is this, and are we going to get a refund if we don't hit the number of views and that kind of thing? How do you deal with that, and how do you find most brands approach that, like, so the video's gone out and it's run, do they then come back to you and say, we want like a full breakdown, a full report? Do you provide that? Like, how do you kind of deal with that conversation from a creator's perspective?
Yeah, I think especially with TikTok at the start, like, you know, it was really like sporadic in terms of how the videos do. You know, some like, it would be the weirdest things that pop off, right? Like you were mentioning earlier, and I wouldn't even know that this was going to take off. So it wouldn't feel okay to promise like a guaranteed set of views almost, but obviously like you could do like a minimum. But I think some brands are aware that when they come in, like you said at the start, with the 300k and you know, actually getting down into the nitty gritty, some brands come in from a perspective of, okay, we just want brand awareness. That's it. It's like when you do a Facebook ad campaign, right? Like you do a brand awareness campaign compared to a lead gen campaign. So it comes from those two perspectives as well. And when they do ask for the analytics, I'm more than happy to provide it. You know, like, you know, I'm working with them and I'm trying to help them as well. So it gets them a better understanding. It provides me more of an insight as well as to how my audience reacts to the content and to the actual promotion. So yeah, like, you know, I'm open to it. Like, I'm not trying to just take money and be like, yeah, like, you know, run off. Like, I want to actually help the brand and be like, okay, cool, like, let's work on this together. Why do you think this didn't work? How can we improve it next time? And what's a better strategy to go forward with?
I wanted to transition into the kind of course side of things, and then maybe like the next phase for you. What does that look like? Like, do you still do brand content like with other brands, or do you solely focus now on I guess teaching what you've done in the last few years? Like, what does the next step look like for you right now?
So I actually took a break from content for a while. After I graduated, I think it took like a 6 to 9 month break. And so obviously I didn't work with any brands during that time. And recently I'm talking to a brand at the moment to do like a longer term partnership with them.
Nice.
But I haven't focused too much on brand deals. I don't know. I just don't feel like that's like the right path to go down. Like, you know, if a brand wants to work with me, and if there's a brand that I really want to work with, then, you know, maybe I'll make that connection. But otherwise, it's just focusing on something that's a lot more sustainable, and maybe more impactful as well. So how fulfilling it would be for me. And you mentioned like the courses and like teaching other people how to kind of do things, right? Like, I hate like being labeled or seeing people like a guru or like a course creator, right? And for the longest, like I recently just built out like an ebook, and even that was like so difficult for me to put out because I just don't like the whole stigma. But like one of my friends said to me, it's like, you know, it's like you're doing people a disservice by not sharing the information you have if you know it can help them, right? It's like you're doing people actively doing people a disservice. You're holding this information back, right? And, you know, I was getting on calls with people, trying to like show them how to help them and kind of just consult them, right? Like just for free, just to actually see what people wanted to do. And it just got to a point where I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know, I can't help anyone and everyone because first of all, it would just take too much of my time, and people need more than just like the technicalities of how to do things. Some people need like mindset training, like, you know, they need to be in the right mind frame as well to actually implement these things. So that's why it was just like, okay, cool, I can maybe build out a product that's available to mass market. And when they are at a stage, or when they are ready to be like, okay, cool, they need more kind of like one-to-one help, then we can maybe think about working together.
And how is it going so far? Do you feel like your current following across both platforms translate well into this more like education product?
Yeah, no, that's one thing that I really had to think about as well, because obviously mine being a personal finance page, it was about, okay, are people gonna really care about this or want this? But I also looked at it from a perspective of, okay, like, I didn't really have the best finances in terms of, I wasn't really making a lot of money before I started my personal brand. And once I started my personal brand, it helped me to gain like so many more opportunities, had more money coming in. So it's like, okay, like, people obviously want to make money as well if they're interested about managing their money. So it was like a good way to start building someone's business. Like, I look at a personal brand as more like a personal business, right? Because your name is your business at that point. And it's a good service that I recommend to start, because there's other stuff you've probably seen, like Facebook ads, or like drop shipping, or Amazon FBA, all of that stuff, which can take a lot of capital to start. So like, I think it will still be interesting, and like, it's something that I'll have to work out and kind of bridge over. But I think there's some synergy in that.
No, I think that makes sense. I think you explained it well. And I was going to say as well, like, this is very, very smart. Like, I think we might have spoke about this in previous episodes, Jake, but like, getting away from, as much as possible, from selling your time and making something that could sell itself even when you're sleeping is the ultimate freedom when it comes to business making, and especially when you're like a solopreneur or a content creator. So like, the whole creator economy is about that. Like, if you can productize yourself in some way and sell that on the internet, that's the dream. So I think we totally get where this is coming from. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and just diversification in general, like you said, Ash, it's like, I guess you got to look at the long term, and I'm not saying it's unrealistic, but you have to think like, maybe it won't last for like ever, and then having those diversified income streams, obviously the way to do it, which is, as a financial personal finance content creator, it would be remiss for you to just be relying on like a single income stream, right? So people need to see that you actually are practicing what you preach. So when it comes to that side of your business, and how are you kind of marketing that and getting the word out there? Is it just through kind of reliance on yourself as a creator to be found, or are you employing kind of some more regular, I suppose, marketing processes or strategies to get the word out there on your courses?
Yeah, I mean, this is something I very recently implemented, and like I was mentioning, I don't like doing this whole course like thing, right? It's like, it feels very uncomfortable, and it's a very new space for me, even though I've bought tons of courses in the past before. But I know that, like you said, with the call to actions, right, people just like being told what to do, and they like structure. So it's like, I need to kind of myself break that limiting belief of, okay, like, actually show people that, okay, my product's good and it's going to get you results, and just market that more. Like, I've only made like one story on it so far, and had a lot of interest through that, but it's just like consistently doing it. And I'm also working with this platform that helps creators do that, right? And one of the creators on there, she has a product on like how to make sales with Instagram, and it's priced at around $47, and she's probably got 3 times less the audience that I do, but she's constantly marketing it like, this is how much money I made with this.
Interesting.
Like, constant marketing. Wow. And last month, I think she pulled in about £90,000 just from that. So, like, it works, Man, so
that's crazy.
I just kind of have to jump over that hurdle myself and try and just market it as much as possible now. as
It's
well.
interesting because we've spoken
Yeah.
a few times on here with people about kind of imposter syndrome, and maybe there's a few things that you've said made me think at first maybe you had to get over that, like thinking, do I have something that people care about? And being in the bubble, like you say, you obviously are seeing a lot of personal finance stuff the same way as what we see a lot of marketing stuff, and you end up thinking like, I got nothing to say that hasn't been said already. But in reality, as you said earlier, there are people out there that don't know that stuff, and you need to get over that hurdle. But when it comes to like putting the course together, once you had made that decision that you wanted to do it and you had something to say, is that a difficult process? It seems like it'd take a hell of a long time to like work out how you structure a course and how much content that you put into that.
I think I made it in terms of more of a playbook than a course.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, because I've taken so many courses in the past, I know kind of like the structures that people have used before.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, just to be real, like a lot of people put a lot of fluff in there, and like I think personally stuff that doesn't need to be mentioned. So I wanted to make something which was actionable, like straight to the point, and be like, okay, listen, these are the steps you need. Like that's it. Because people try to overcomplicate things. They think there's like secrets and all of this stuff, right? But it's just like, you know, this is what it is. You just need to take action and be consistent. So that's kind of how I went about structuring my playbook. And just wanted to make sure that it actually can get people results if they stick to it. So yeah, and obviously, you know, I'm more than happy to help people out if they have any questions.
Yeah, that's really smart, because I think you're right. There's I know what you're saying about the whole course thing and not wanting to be labeled like that, because there's a lot of there's a lot of fluff in that industry, and I think the when you graduate from being a course type of person, then you make a course about creating courses. You know, like you graduate to like the next level, and yeah, there's a lot of BS in that world. But I think so easy to differentiate yourself if you do what you do, like you said, go to the point, really actionable, actually making it useful. If you have something to say that is very useful that people don't know about, that could change their life really, or change their career, or you know, really put them in a different path, then yeah, go for it. Yeah, you'll definitely have an advantage over them if that's the case. So
there's probably a B2B play in there as well, like focused, targeted to brands or to marketing teams on like the best way to work with content creators through, just like you say, actionable steps, like how to find them, how to work out whether they're charging you right or wrong, what to talk about, what briefs to give them. That's it's another revenue stream you can have there, and you can.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because I just put it out as how to grow with content, right? Yeah. So I didn't even include all this brand deal stuff or any extra stuff. I was just like, okay, cool, simple, straight to the point. And I did a workshop on Sunday, and which was also about the same thing. But I also had brand deals in that. And I had a lot of questions from people in the audience where I was like, oh, like, how do you navigate that space? Like, you know, do you have like a template that I can reach out to brands with? You know, how do you kind of deal with that? So stuff like that. It's like, okay, the more questions I get, I'll add it to the ebook if that's more helpful, right? I'll be like, okay, cool. Here's a template for you to reach out to brands. Here's how I would structure things and stuff like that. So yeah, like definitely, you know, add things on and just kind of grow that with different arms.
Yeah,
very cool.
It's a living thing. And I saw on your stories yesterday, I think it was, you ask what's stopping people to build their reputation or personal brand doing what you do. Like what did you learn from the replies? I saw that you got quite a few replies from people. Like what people are saying, what do you think is stopping most people from going on like down your path?
I think it's just mentality, really. You know, I kind of knew what people were going to say. I just wanted to see if there was any other excuses that people would come up with. But, you know, a lot of it was time, money, and really just being scared to get in front of the camera. So, you know, like it's all normal, natural things, right? Like I was in the same position. I felt all of those things. I thought about all of those things. But it's just kind of getting over that mental barrier of, okay, like I just need to get started, just do it like with whatever resources I have. And, you know, even being in front of the camera, like if you watched a couple of my first videos, like, you know, I was stuttering so much. I was like, I wasn't even editing it properly where it was clean. Like, but you just have to get started. You're going to get better at it the more reps you put in, right? So yeah, I think it's just literally like, you know, like Nike says, like, it didn't resonate with me as much as it has in the last year or two. Like, just do it.
Yeah, it's a bit like us with the podcast. I think we didn't really think about it too much. We just started to do it. We recorded with the video on. You know, we don't really put ourselves out there that much, like other than words. You know, like I was using LinkedIn a lot, but you don't really put your face that much. Now we've got the voice. We've got people. Like we just passed 3,000 downloads on the podcast in like 50 days. That's mad. Sweet. You know, it's like an hour in your ears, you know, like in your brain, you're listening to someone's voice. So like the intimacy is very strong with that medium. And it was all about the mindset. We just started to do it and we're like, okay, every week we're going to do it, and put it out. What do you think people think it's a money thing? Because most of it is like an iPhone and an idea.
Exactly.
That's how you start, right?
Yeah, and you know that, but people will think, you know, oh, I need the lighting set up, I need a good microphone, I need an expensive camera, I need a good backdrop. Like, you know, it's just people just overcomplicate things and they overthink things, right? So
yeah. You don't need to start with the neons in a background. Exactly. You don't need neons in your bedroom. Exactly. You know, you can do it without it.
Yeah, like I think the same applies for a podcast. Like people think they need like studio quality stuff to get started, and people can't even get past the first 3 episodes, let alone 21 episodes, and then 100 from that, right?
Which at the same time is kind of an opportunity for the people who do like you, like yourself. You know, it's a great way to differentiate yourself. Whatever you want to talk about, if you can put yourself in that mindset. There's a lot of things that come out of it. So like yourself, having an audience, probably people reaching out to you on a daily basis that really follow you very closely. Like, do you have like a particular, the hot center of your community of like people who like DM you every day? Like, do you have like a close relationship with a few of them for the time you've been doing it?
Yeah, like there's definitely a few that are like consistent and like, you know, they just show up more.
Yeah.
And that's what I've really kind of, I think, like missed out on as well. Not really building a community behind that. Like, obviously, I have them there on my Instagram, but it's like, okay, I really need to think about moving all of these guys to a community and having a place where everyone can talk, share ideas, and, you know, I can be involved as well. Because I saw something recently. It was like, okay, you know, we are coming to the end of an information era, right? Like the past couple of years has been so much, okay, package information up and sell it, right? But a lot more people, and I feel the same way. I'm not sure what you guys think, right? But a lot of people are looking for value in communities now, and they're looking to be a part of a community, and like learn from each other, network with each other. And I think that's really the next era that's going to evolve into. So I really want to focus on building that community as well, and just providing value in that sense.
Something you just said at the start, which was you have your audience that exists on TikTok, you have your audience that exists on Instagram, but you don't own either of those. So if both those platforms died tomorrow, you would lose those audiences, which I feel like, as not like a content creator like you, is like scary and also annoying in that you work really hard for that. So you should be able to take those users elsewhere, which is why I think things like X, formerly known as Twitter, moving towards being decentralized, and Threads talking about being decentralized, and all that kind of stuff, where you can take your audience onto a new platform, must be a really nice concept for you. But also it's interesting to hear how you're thinking about, like, before those things happen, how you're thinking of like trying to kind of get those users as yourself. And I guess one is through, I don't know if you have a newsletter or a mailing list. I don't think you do, right? But also interesting to hear that you're thinking about a community, like building it, because that would be a way to get those users off platform and into somewhere that you kind of owned. So if it was in Discord, I guess technically you wouldn't own it. But how you're thinking about that and what your plans are to build a community would be really interesting to dig into a bit.
Yeah, no, I think it's just thinking about how I can provide value in those communities, because I don't just want people to be a part of a community and there's nothing there, right? Like, you know, the community's there for a reason. They've become a community around something for a particular reason, right? So it's just kind of thinking about what to actually place. Obviously, with newsletters, I can provide value in the sense of whether that's personal finance tips, whether that's building a business, growing a business, any kind of aspects in that sense. And also similar with the Discord community, maybe because I wanted to try and attach a community to personal branding sort of things as well, because I can really provide it there. So a Discord community, email newsletter. I know people that have Facebook groups that are really powerful as well, and really just focusing on building something more of a culture than thinking of, okay, how can I monetize this? It's more of just building that community, and it's going to monetize itself once you have that strong community.
And have you found has anyone approached you to do that for you, like companies that are building communities for content creators?
Communities, not so much, but I have had a lot of people reach out to build products and whatnot for me to monetize, but not as much as communities. And that's what I was thinking about. I was like, I wonder whether people are going to start reaching out or like offering that, and I think that would be a very, very valuable service, and something that I want to look into as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good little business idea right there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I thought about it yesterday, so don't tell anyone.
Community.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's not like anyone will be listening to this. That's okay. That's cool. That's really cool. I guess in what we in the last few minutes what we discussed, there's degrees to this. So you've got your audience on social media, then you can try and get the email address or the phone number of this audience, which still makes it an audience, but you own it. That's another kind of like deeper level like of ownership. And then there's the community level, which is something different, which is them then talking with each other, which has to have purpose, rituals, like a tribe, like a cultural thing, like a movement. That's another level of connection between people. So there's like different 2 or 3 degrees to this until you actually get to a community, and various ways to tackle it from a content creator. So it's good that you're on the journey to this. It sounds good. Sounds like a good thing to do.
Have you guys like attached the community to the podcast side of things, or like a newsletter, any Facebook groups, sort of like things like that?
The newsletter is live. Not growing as fast as the podcast. We really focus on like growing the listeners first, because that's where I think the stickiness come from. When you get someone to listen to you every week, like it's really, really powerful. But we've got a newsletter attached to it, which will grow with it. And the community side of things, not yet. I think, like you said, we need to have a real purpose for it. Like if it's just a random, for us, it'll probably be like something like a Slack channel. If it's a Slack channel where people are just like there, but like we in many Slack channels, and a lot of them are dead. Like nothing's really happening, or you ask a question, you get like one answer, if that. Everyone is there kind of like to, promote each other, like whatever they do. So we haven't found that that layer of like community layer for what we do, but I think that's okay. Like not everything, it's okay not to have a community for everything. Like a podcast plus a newsletter is 100% enough if we wanted to like grow and monetize in like 10 different ways, between sponsorship, paid content, if we wanted to do like educational products as well, like courses and things like that, we could do that. But we're the same as you. Like the feeling that you have about courses, Jake and I are a bit the same. We're a bit like, we don't really want to like dive into that. Like I feel a bit like weird about it. But if we do have something, if we find something that wait a second, like where we do have something that we could say, package it and like sell it for X amount, then eventually we might do that. But there's a lot of events as well. Like once you have people listening to you, you could do events with like, free paid aspect as well. There's a ton of things, and I think the yeah, the community aspect is important, but it's not necessarily the answer to everything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
okay.
No, I think with podcasts it grows automatically as well. Like everyone who listens to the podcast becomes a community because you start talking about these little marketing tactics or marketing hacks, like, oh, like, what do you think of this? And like it just becomes like a cult almost. And did you guys listen to My First Million by any chance?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Like I love that podcast, for example. And they've got a really strong community, and like they do events and stuff as well. So yeah, like I think
it's mad, and I don't know how much they sold to HubSpot, but the podcast is technically
HubSpot
by
now,
HubSpot, and but I've heard the numbers. I think they pulling at least there's a few 100,000 listens per episode, so like million in a million plus listeners a month on a podcast. Can you imagine? Like it's crazy. And the reality with podcasting is, I think I saw the number. Did I share that with you, Jake? The amount of active podcasts in 2023 is like 500,000. It's nothing.
Really? I thought it was a lot more.
Yeah, me too. Because they all die.
Yeah.
No one does it in a consistent manner. Like active podcast is very small in comparison to like blogs, for example, which is like maybe a billion blogs. I don't know at this point. There's like so many blogs about anything. Imagine Instagram accounts as well. There's so many Instagram accounts about anything that are active. So there is a thing like when you mentioned My First Million, it's like, it's funny because who doesn't listen to My First Million? It feels like everyone, when you mention people in this space, when you're like, oh, which podcast do you listen to? They always list the 2 or 3 same ones. Everyone's listening to the same ones. So there's that just shows you there's space for like more niche content on like other topics, and there's massive opportunities there.
So I saw someone tweeted the other day and said, does anyone know a tool that will like just take a podcast and turn it into text for me? Sure, there's obviously like tons of those and we use them. And then he was like, or one better, like do that, but then cut out all of the chat and all of the fluff and all of the comedy and just leave them with the bullet points. And I was like, man, that's like, it's like an insult. We've put so much effort into like trying to make this fun, enjoyable, and it's like people don't want that. They just want to cut through the bullet points. So I guess, I mean, I've become one of those people that's like, it's my content. I spend time on this.
Do you know what someone said about last time, like the last episode that we were talking about the fact people were saying like I sound like I'm dopey or like I smoked weed or something because like stoned, and someone said that they solved the problem by just putting the podcast at 1.5 speed. You're like, now you sound normal, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
No, I do tend to listen to my podcast at like 2x speed though, 1.7.
2x is too much, man. It gives me a headache. I tried once and I was like, I feel like I'm on drugs right now. Like actually, at this point, I was like, I feel like now I'm stoned. It's like it's too fast.
If it requires like actual mental calculation and it's 2x, your brain is like, I just can't keep up with this. Yeah.
I have to slowly build up. I was like 1.2, 1.5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no one's got time for one. If you watch a YouTube video on 1 speed, it's like, oh, this just seems so slow.
You're an NPC. You're an NPC. You're watching out one.
Man, I'm an NPC then. I listen to everything on the speed 1. It's like, what's wrong with you?
Think how much time of your life you could be saving if you like sped it up by just 0.5. You'd regain hours
do like
a day.
Twice the content.
Exactly. I was going to say twice the content.
Crazy. Crazy. Well, Ash, that was amazing. That was great. That was a great chat.
Yeah, it was really good.
Thank you for spending the time with us. Very, very insightful, I think, for the marketing folks.
Yeah, I hope so.
Out there, and thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. I had a really good conversation as well. Take care.
That was cool. He's
awesome.
A really nice guy.
Oh, can you imagine? He's 23, man. At 23, I was like a baby compared to that. Like, he started at 20. He's got 500,000 people following him across platform, like 450. He's charging like 3+ K per video brand deals for one video. And now he's doing a course, that he's going to sell.
And like, seminars.
This lady that he was saying, like, making, and seminars,
Yeah, it's
23.
unbelievable.
How do you sell a 9-to-5 job to someone like that? It's very interesting to think about when you think about it from a business, like a founder's point of view, or when you're trying to recruit like young people that are born in that stuff. You know, like we already in our 30s, like way in our 30s, probably closer to our 40s now, and which is depressing to say, but like when you talk to Ash, and then you're like, this is the reality for him, right? So like, I think I don't really have a conclusion to what I'm saying. I'm just saying like it's a different world.
Yeah, it is.
To like this generation, I think there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to think that someone with a million followers or whatever is making so much money that they're going to retire in like 5 years. The reality probably isn't necessarily the case, because like retirement money is like big money, especially at the age of like 25. So it must be quite scary. But also, I was going to ask him actually at the end, but I felt like it was an obvious question really. But for a business that wants to like do social, which I feel like doing, so like social media management now is more like content creation. I think social media management shouldn't be social media management should now just be called content creator. And if you're a brand, there's so many people out there that like him, or people with slightly lesser following than him, or maybe him in like a few years when some stuff's tailed off, that you can be like, bring this person in and just give them free reign to like grow the content for our business, and not be like just put shit out on social, because everyone's got a social media managers putting dog shit stuff out there. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work for their brand just because they feel like they need to be putting something on Instagram.
Makes no engagement as well. Yeah. And it comes to money as well. So you've got historically social media managers, which I agree should be called content creators now. It were jobs that were paid entry-level jobs, or even like after a job or two, it's like paid 20 to, if you're lucky, in the 30s, like 30K something. If you're very lucky, in the 40s, after 5-6 years of experience, right? How do you attract someone like him on that salary?
Yeah, exactly.
When he can just do it on his own and have a massive audience and stuff. So that's, I guess that's what I'm thinking from a business operator point of view. You can't really attract a content creator on that salary on a full-time job. Like, or you have to accept that they're going to do something on the side, and that's fine for you.
Yeah.
Or you bring them as a freelancer or as a collaborator, but like not full-time employee. There's like other ways to think about these things, and I think it's fascinating the way it's changing marketing teams overall, like content plus like much just like the wider range of like what marketing is, because there's so many ways for 20-somethings, even like late teens, to be out there on social media, get a huge following, and then get a ton of money out of it, like monetize it. It's a lot of opportunity for them. So yeah, think about it from like your business point of view. Like, I think there's like some changes that needs to be done, because
yeah, definitely. And it's something that Cody's going on a lot about at the moment, which is build like a brand builds a media brand inside it. So you could just hire someone like him and accept that it's going to cost you a decent amount of money, or maybe do it fractionally, whatever. And it's like, you're like Durex is a bad example, because you could actually do a lot of fun content for Durex. But if you're like Colgate toothpaste, or whatever, you could still hire someone in. The content doesn't have to be only relevant to what your business is doing, but it's just like this media channel that you have access to. It's building an audience, and then you can market to that audience for free whenever you want to. So I think there's lots of changes like that.
Cool, man.
All right.
I didn't think we were going to do it today, but we did it. It's a good one.
We did it. We haven't dropped a week so far.
Yeah, it's perfect, man. I'm at 99%, so I'm just going to have to wait 2 seconds.
You just need to move to the south of France. It's funny to have better internet connection there than in Tottenham.
Oh yeah, no, it's I don't know why. It's crazy. I don't know what's going on in Tottenham. We've got a problem.